Ethan Skolnick here for the 5 Reasons Sports Network. This is the latest 305 Live. Make sure to check out 5reasonsports.com. Spell it out, F-I-V-E, reasonsports.com. Also, all of our latest episodes, the latest 3 yards per carry, 5 rings canes, and of course, 5 on the floor. Just put a new episode out tonight, so check that out. Talked to Daniel Healy, a Miami Heat UK. Went across the pond. Talk a little Miami Heat basketball, what would have been happening between the Heat and the Bucks. But tonight we're going to go back to the Dolphins, and there was some news tonight. The NFL is operating as if there is no pandemic, so good for them, I guess. And the situation is basically the schedule, and the Dolphins schedule, the NFL schedule. Parts of it were leaked over the past 24 hours, but the rest of it all came out tonight. It's official on the Dolphins website. They put out a video. I'm going to start here. We got Alfredo Arteaga here from 3 yards per carry. I'm going to start by saying that typically I consider this to be one of the stupidest exercises of the year. We already know who the Dolphins' opponents are before this date. It's predetermined based on schedule, based on record last year, and also based on a rotating schedule of playing the other conference. So there's really no news here, except that everybody's starving for something. So this comes out, and it just gives you an idea of when the games come, when the bye week comes, and all the rest of this. But as you look at it, and now that I've totally killed the vibe here, as you look at it, what kind of stuck out to you? And then we'll go through certain pieces of this.
Well, I've been used to, at least for the last, God knows how long, maybe 20 years, complaining about how the Dolphins are always getting screwed by the schedule makers. And I always find it interesting. This is one of my favorite days of the year because when they release the schedule, they sit around in a room, and I'm sure that they pay, they have some highly paid accounting firms do all of this and try to balance the schedule as well as they can. And they always manage to screw one team somewhere. And the Dolphins seem to have been on the short end of the stick for many, many years. Now, what I found interesting once again is that their streak of not having a primetime game, meaning a Sunday night football game, is now reaching 11 years, I believe, which might be the longest in the NFL. But there's a game toward the end of the year where they play the Bengals, and if Tua is playing and the Bengals are not horrid, maybe you have a Burrow-Tua situation. But as far as just looking at the schedule overall, man, they got a lot of help in the schedule. They're sending Seattle here, they're sending the Chargers here, and they're sending the Rams here, all the way across the country. That's 3 teams, all the way across the country. Usually those are 25%, 22 to 25% win percentages historically. So they're getting help right off the bat right there.
All right, so let's go through. I mean, to me, the single biggest thing of the schedule is there's no London game. There was supposed to be a London game. So the Dolphins were supposed to lose another home game. I feel like Steve Ross gives them away like candy because it was an exchange for the Super Bowl. So that came off. So that's a positive. But the second thing I want to address before we go through all of this is that, again, we're operating as if this is going to happen. And the NFL apparently is operating as if this is going to happen. Apparently there's no backup plan to this. There was a report that came out in earlier today, or maybe it was yesterday, that the first 4 games of the year were going to be non-conference games, which to me made sense because if you're going to eliminate something from the schedule, if you have to start late, those would be the ones that you would eliminate. That's not how it turned out. The Dolphins start their season with New England, Buffalo, and Jacksonville before they play Seattle. So that's 3 conference games. 2 of them are division games, critical division games. So that didn't happen. So the NFL is just operating like COVID does not exist right now. And again, it's hard to take that elephant and throw it out of the room when I'm talking to people in the NBA all day who are trying to salvage next season, not just this season. And the NFL is acting as if we're going to have training camps opening in mid-July, and we're going to be playing football in front of fans starting September 13th with full travel.
That's the thing, right? The NFL is operating with a little time. The NBA has no time. The NBA had to stop their season right before the playoffs, and they're wondering whether they can even start up again. The NFL is just looking at it and say, look, we got 8 weeks before we even have to start training, and we have maybe 16 weeks till we even have to put on games. So maybe hope for the best. Maybe that's what they're doing right now.
It seems like it. I mean, it seems like it. And again, the NFL schedule doesn't really have a lot of give because I don't see them pushing this back a month or two and playing until February. It's too set in terms of that. The NBA, in my view, has a little more flexibility with that, as does the NHL. Nobody talks about Major League Baseball anymore. I don't know what they're going to do. But anyway, let's get back to the NFL and to this particular schedule, and we'll break it down. Here's why I'm not doing win-loss. Okay, and I know everybody had to do it today. Cameron Wolf did it on ESPN. He had 7-9. Our Ryan Lasner did 4-12. The reason I don't do win-loss is last year. First thing, teams change a lot from year to year. So this thing about how the Dolphins have one of the toughest strength of schedules means nothing. Okay, there were teams that were good last year that were not good the year before. We typically see divisions completely flip. And so I don't buy into any of that. And also, there isn't a soul alive. There's not a soul alive, okay, who would have gone win-loss with that Dolphins team last year and had the Dolphins at 5-4 in the last 9 games of the season with Ryan Fitzpatrick as their leading rusher. There is no way in hell. So I don't want to do it that way. But let's look at the schedule in terms of some of the things you're talking about, which is difficult road trips for other teams, how the Dolphins might handle this. All right, so they open in New England. And to me, that's not a bad place to be. If you're going to play in New England, better to do it earlier in the season when it's warmer, and also better to do it early in the season when they're breaking in a brand new quarterback who's going to be under enormous pressure in the first game. And Belichick teams typically, even with Brady, take a while to kind of round into shape. I mean, that's by design. Yeah. So I actually like that they're opening in New England. And they go up with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And the other thing is, for everybody who's talking about how bad, the Dolphins have more talent right now than they did at the end of last season. Okay, so is it going to take some time for some guys? Yes, but just with some of the free agents they've added. Remember, Tunsil wasn't here at the end of last year anyway. Minka wasn't here at the end of last year anyway. Okay, Rashad Jones wasn't playing. They'd shut down Wilson and Grant. Okay, some of these guys are going to be back. And Preston Williams was out at the end of last season. So this team, just by the fact that guys get healthier, and they brought some people in free agency, is going to be better at the beginning of the season than they were at the end of last season. Plus, the coach has another year under his belt and an entire offseason to prepare. I like that. Buffalo at home after that. Again, that means you're going to have to go to Buffalo later in the season. I think the Bills are going to be pretty good, but we'll see. At Jacksonville, that looks winnable on paper, but we don't know. The Seahawks at home, you mentioned that. Team has to come cross country, and then you get San Francisco and Denver back to back on the road. My guess is they stay out there. Again, this is all assuming this is. And
that's a murderous road trip. Like those are scheduled losses, both of them.
They are.
I think Denver's going to be really, really good. By the way,
I think they should be, provided that Locke makes the progression we expect. Mm-hmm. San Francisco obviously is loaded, and again, it's coming after playing Seattle at home. Sometimes these road trips, though, where you get out with the team on the road for a week, are not the worst thing in the world. Dolphins have done this in the past and had some success. Is not the worst thing. Then they get the Chargers at home, the Rams at home. So again, you mentioned 2 straight LA teams that have to come here and play 1:00 games, which are 10:00 on the West Coast. And they're from LA, so they'll be used to the warm weather. Then at Arizona. And then this stretch, if it means anything by now, Alfredo, which is Jets at home, bye at the Jets. I like having the bye a little earlier in the season than November 22nd. I don't like having it like the 5th week of the season, but this is after week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's a little late. But then you go to the Jets after that. And then you mentioned Cincinnati at home. I don't think there's any chance that game is flexed, Alfredo, because the Bengals are going to be awful, I think. And then you get.
But you can see my scenario, right? You can see my scenario. If the Bengals let's say the Bengals are 500 and Burrow is lighting it up, and the Dolphins are around 500 and Tua has started a game or two. Right. I can see how that could draw eyeballs.
But also, you're talking about close to the end of the season, when NBC is going to be wanting to put on games with significant playoff meaning.
Yeah,
if it was earlier in the season, maybe, but I would be surprised. And then the Chiefs at home. Oh boy,
Patriots that's rough.
By the time then the Patriots should be better, and then you're going out either the 26th or 27th at the Las Vegas Raiders. So I guess some of the beat writers are going to spend Christmas in Vegas, and then you're at Buffalo, last game of the season. I think
that's a murderous game right there.
I think the Bills are winning the division this year, so you're going to go up there in frigid weather. Let's just look at it from a Tua perspective, okay? Because I don't want to do the win-loss. I think the Dolphins will be better than last year. I don't know that they'll win more games, but I do think they'll be better. But what would make sense for you just looking at the schedule on paper in terms of when to insert Tua?
I don't see him being inserted if the team is fighting for a playoff spot and Fitzpatrick is competent. Now, even if the team is actually winning with Ryan Fitzpatrick and he has a couple of horrific games, which he's known to do, Brian Flores has always struck me as the guy that would say, you know what, if the guy's ready, he's ready, and he'll play. Right. So I could see him nowhere near the beginning of the season. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to have a pretty long leash. I would say 12 games. That's a pretty long leash. But if the team is around 500 and Brian Flores can smell the playoffs and he knows that the weak link is Ryan Fitzpatrick, I could see Tua finishing the season.
But I don't see Fitzpatrick being the weak link. I don't. I mean, unless his body just totally breaks down just because of age. I think what we saw last year was a progression as the season went on. He really didn't have awful games in the second half of last year. There was one clunker, but really the clunkers came early. The clunkers came before he was replaced by Rosen. The clunkers came in preseason. Chan Gailey's going to manage him in a way that I think that is going to preserve him. They're going to run the ball a lot with Jordan Howard and with Matt Breida. And I don't know how good the offensive line is going to be, but they got some road graders there that may help. I still think they need a tight end other than Gesicki who can help the run game there. But the run game can't be worse than it was last year. It's impossible. It's the worst run game in NFL history. So I mean, it's going to be better just with the two backs that they have. And they still have Patrick Laird back, who I think can be productive. So I don't really see Fitzpatrick going. I think a lot of this is going to be fan-based. I just wonder, Ross always ends up relenting to the fans. And I'm just looking at some of these games after the bye. All right. The game in New York, I mean, I do think Cincinnati, but I don't even know that the Dolphins would – if Burrow's playing well for Cincinnati, I don't even know if the Dolphins would want to debut Tua against him. I don't know. Unless they were totally confident in it, I don't know. From a public relations standpoint, is that what you want to do? And then you got Kansas City after that. It's going to go toe-to-toe with Mahomes. I think we could be seeing – the last 3 games of the year, maybe. And if it's those 3, and we don't know how the Raiders are going to draw in Vegas, if it's those 3, I mean, good luck to Tua in the last game of the season in Buffalo. He'll get a bit of
I wouldn't play him there.
He'll get a bit of
play him in horrific weather against probably the best. I don't think they're better than the Patriots, but the second best division, second best defense in the division, and maybe the 4th best defense in the conference? No. Yeah, that's a horrific spot.
I could see a scenario where you get Tua starts against New England and Vegas and then give Rosen the start in Buffalo.
Yeah, that's a possibility. If the team if the team is bad, absolutely. Now, if, like I said, remember they're adding that extra playoff team. If the team has an opportunity, Brian Flores, I really do believe this. I think Brian Flores will weigh it. And if he thinks that Tua is better than Ryan Fitzpatrick to finish out the season, I think he'll play toward the end of the year.
Yeah, I thought so, but I don't think Tua is going to get to that point this year, and I don't think that's a reflection of Tua. I just think Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to have command of this system from the beginning. The Gailey system is very similar to what he's run. I think Chan will, there's a relationship there already. I think he's going to tailor it to his taste, to what he does well. And I think Fitzpatrick is going to come out of this situation where I think he's going to have a pretty good year. I just don't think it can be stacked against him more than it was last year. And I was impressed. I mean, I was one of those people calling for Rosen. But, I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick, to me, showed why they had faith in him. And I think if they can just redshirt Tua the whole year, they will. Or maybe get him a look in some late game situations, okay, in some blowout situations. To me, it's somewhat similar. I remember Michael Vick coming down here with Atlanta when he was on the bench behind who? Was it Chris Chandler at the time? I think it might have been.
Yeah,
and Chandler was the starter, but Vick got in the game and played. I could see that happening. I mean, it's not like you lose a redshirt year. It's not college. So there's no reason, if you're down 2 or 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, you get Tua some reps there and get him acclimated. I think that's more likely than turning the team off over to Tua.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed is that the only people talking about redshirting Tua Tagovailoa are us. It's the people in the media, fans, people on Twitter, NFL Network, ESPN. Those are the only people talking about that. I haven't heard Brian Flores say anything about that.
No, now, he's gonna want all these guys to come into camp to compete. That's all.
Yeah,
and they're gonna leak certain things.
Watching, if we do get a camp, is who is the backup quarterback? Because it's not out of the realm of possibility that Ryan Fitzpatrick is pretty old. What if he gets hurt? What if he gets hurt in week 5? Who is the backup quarterback?
I think it's Rosen. I think it's Rosen. I think if Rosen's not traded, that's what he's here for. I think he is here to be the bridge between Fitzpatrick and Tua, and then you maybe get him a game or two, and maybe he can be sent somewhere for a conditional 5th-round pick, and you try to recoup something.
Maybe they were playing a little bit more chess than checkers, and Rosen is like I heard one of our listeners on the 3 Yards Per Carry account texted us tweeted to us that he felt that Josh Rosen was the Matt Moore of this team, that he's going to be here maybe for 10 years as the backup quarterback. Now, if people say 10 years as a backup quarterback, think about it. Don Strock was here for 10 years as a backup quarterback.
Yeah, but usually guys accept that later on. I mean, if you look at, Steve Walsh was kind of groomed to be that with Dallas, remember, behind Aikman. There have been certain guys, like you mentioned, Strock was obviously here a very long time in that role, probably could have been a starter somewhere else. And did have some opportunities to start, but typically you don't see that with a guy who's 22. I don't think now is that what ultimately his role will be? Perhaps. I think one of the problems for Josh Rosen as a backup quarterback staple is that his big problem last year wasn't physical. It was apparently learning the plays and knowing where things were supposed to be. The one thing that a backup quarterback needs to be able to do is just run the offense, right? Like that's what you're expecting. Just don't F up the offense. And
there was that infamous video that our own Chris Hoffman posted last year where Josh Rosen couldn't identify the mic. Right. And we're watching it on TV and we're like, that guy's the mic right there. He's supposed to count to the right of him and to the left of him. And whoever's in the middle, that's the mic.
And what was weird about it is he's known as a smart guy. And so it's been strange that he hasn't been able to command things. Now, maybe in the second year, we see big progress. I mean, I could see a scenario. I really could see a scenario where Josh Rosen wows everybody in camp, if there's a camp. I could absolutely see it. I could see him, using all this as fuel, coming back and looking great. But to me, if he's going to be a long-term backup option in the league, he needs to command the offense, because that is what you want from your backup. You want your backup to come in and know everything is pretty much under control, and at least maybe you're not going to get greatness, but you're going to get competence. And I don't know that he proved last year that he can provide that, but he's so young, I don't want to count it against him.
You want a guy that can contribute to that quarterback room,
Well, and that's what Fitzpatrick can do. I mean, I kind of wish that Ryan was 3 years younger. Because and then could stick around in a backup role for Tua for 2 or 3 more years. I don't know if that's something Ryan wants to do, but ultimately, if he was 34, I would say that would be ideal. But he's 38, and so the question is, can they get Rosen up to speed? Like, I feel like they have the perfect quarterback room, except I feel like they need one of these guys to be in their early 30s, who ultimately becomes the trusty backup. I mean, to be honest, for all the mocking of Chad Henne, that's kind of what he did. After he left Miami.
He's still doing it now for the Super Bowl.
He's still doing it. Right. I mean, he got into his 30s. He was a competent guy who knew how to run stuff. He wasn't going to do anything dramatic. And he was just a guy that you had around. And you mentioned Matt Moore. The difference between Matt Moore and Josh Rosen is that Matt Moore came out of nowhere. I mean, he was an undrafted guy who showed something. I mean, Josh Rosen was a top pick. He's going to get more opportunities to prove he can be more than just a backup. Matt Moore it was kind of like, okay, he had the one stint in Carolina. He had some moments with the Dolphins, but really this is a backup quarterback. But Henny is the more typical one where guy gets a chance to, and I thought that's what was going to happen to Tannehill, honestly. Guy gets a chance to start for a while and doesn't prove he's a full-time starter, but is a guy you can trust, and you put him in that quarterback room. That's why I say I wish to me that's Fitzpatrick, but he's 38. So I think it's more so it's more that you ride him as long as you can this year, and then you turn the thing over maybe to Rosen for a little bit, and you get Tua some mop-up stuff. I think that's a possibility. All right, let's close the door on this here. I mean, again, I'm not going to do win-loss with you because I don't. But I just think that overall, it does look daunting at the beginning and the end. And I can see this being a thing with Dolphin fans. Do you want to subject Tua to, Kansas City, New England, the trip to Las Vegas and at Buffalo at the end of the season? That'll be interesting to watch. I do think this is the last year that the Dolphins don't have some primetime games. I think that if they knew Tua was going to start, I think there would have been 3 on the schedule. But not knowing it, there's not going to be, and you just go with tried and true. I mean, I see Houston has a bunch of games. I think they're going to be awful.
And they start off with a murderous. Their first 7 games are horrific.
Right. Well, they were last year, too. But the difference is last year they also, and everybody's like, oh, the Dolphins are going to get a high pick out of this. But the difference was last year they had DeAndre Hopkins. They had some other guys they don't have right now. And I don't know how they're going to protect Deshaun Watson. So, anyway, check out Alfredo on 3 yards per carry. I'm typically on 5 on the floor, but obviously we'll have more content for you. I think Louis Sung is going to do a breakdown of the schedule, even as much as I'm saying don't break down the schedule. We will have one on the website. Also, we got something new that's going to be – we got five reasons to drink tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, usual time. And we've got all the Tua shirts are on the site. While I have you, we understand they're taking some time to get out to you. You also understand there's a global pandemic. As soon as they can get them to you, they will. We use Printful. It's a third-party retailer, and I don't have, as you can see in my house, my apartment, I do not have a printing apparatus here. So we use them. They're a little bit delayed. Typically, they're 2 to 5 days to fulfill them, and before they ship them, now they're 13 to 16 days. So be patient. You will get your shirt. Well before Tua plays a game, I promise you, and well before you get the jersey. You're getting it before you get the Tua jersey. I guarantee you that. All right, check out.
And just as an aside, if you go on MiamiDolphins.com and order a Tua Tagovailoa jersey, right under it says will be fulfilled by October. That's October. That's the month.
Right.
Like 4 months from now, 5-6 months from now, October 25th. So if an NFL franchise.
It's 4 times the price of our shirt, by the way.
Yes. So if an NFL franchise is promising jerseys by October, you can wait an extra 5-10 days for our shirts.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. If you ordered them on draft night, some of those have gone out already. But if you order them on draft night, I can't guarantee it, but you're gonna have it in the next week or 2. Okay. So it's not going to take that much longer. So stop with the hate mail. All right. Love you all. 5reasonsports.com.